Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're not looking at a whole year or even a month in AI. We're zooming in on one single, absolutely jam-packed day. And what this day shows us is a technology that's just moving at a jaw-dropping speed, and it's dragging the rest of the world right along with it. But underneath all that incredible progress, we're going to uncover 4 key tensions that are really shaping everything.
And you know the stakes? They could not be higher. When Google dropped its latest AI model, this was the immediate gut punch reaction from a competitor in China. This isn't just about some cool new app on your phone. This is a full-blown global race with huge geopolitical and economic consequences on the line.
Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to look at a massive new alliance and a high-stakes financial gamble that's making Wall Street nervous. Then we'll check in on the world's new all-knowing assistant and its very, very human flaws. After that, we'll see how AI agents are literally joining the workforce, for both good and, well, for bad. And finally, we're going to see what happens when this explosive digital growth runs headfirst into the hard limits of physical reality. All right, our first story kicks off with a deal that is absolutely reshaping the entire AI landscape. You've got Microsoft, you've got Anthropic, and you've got Nvidia, and they've just formed this trio that basically redefines the entire economic model for building and deploying AI. It all starts with this number, $5 billion. That's the commitment Microsoft made to invest in Anthropic. You know, the folks behind the Claude family of models. This deal brings Anthropic's really powerful AI onto Microsoft's Azure cloud for the very first time. But hold on, because here's the flip side of that coin. In return for that investment, Anthropic committed to buying a mind-boggling $30 billion of cloud computing from Azure. Now, this is where things get really, really interesting and start to change the whole game. The deal also gives Anthropic the option to lock down up to 1 gigawatt of extra compute power. I mean, a gigawatt. That is enough to power a small city. You see, in the AI race today, it's not just about who has the smartest algorithm anymore. The new battlefield, the new moat, is who can actually afford to train and run these things at an absolutely massive scale. And that right there is the multi-trillion-dollar question. I mean, these numbers are just astronomical, and they've raised some serious red flags across the financial world. People are asking, is this a sustainable model for the future, or is it just a giant house of cards waiting to fall over? So here's the heart of the criticism. People are calling it circular financing. Basically, Microsoft invests in Anthropic, and then Anthropic immediately turns around and uses that same money to buy cloud services from, you guessed it, Microsoft. Now, it's a brilliant loop if customers show up to pay for the end product, but it's a huge risk if they don't. And you're already seeing the pushback. An analyst from Redburn downgraded Microsoft's stock, pointing out that AI revenue requires 6 times the capital investment of regular cloud business. Heck, even Microsoft's own CEO, Satya Nadella, sent a memo to his team saying they need to rapidly rethink the new economics of AI. So what does all this mean for everybody else? Well, for businesses, it's actually a pretty big win. Having both OpenAI and Anthropic available on Azure means you have more choice and you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. But for the market as a whole, these massive pre-booked capacity deals are the new currency. They can lock in a cloud platform's dominance for years, but man, they also concentrate a ton of risk if those big bets don't pay off. Okay, let's switch gears to our second big story. Because on the exact same day, Google was on a mission, pushing its flagship AI, Gemini, absolutely everywhere, into our cars, into our creative tools, and right to the top of the AI intelligence charts. But this huge rollout also exposed some deep and, frankly, pretty embarrassing flaws. And this just perfectly captures the tension. On one hand, you have Gemini 3 Pro, which vaulted Google to #1 on a key AI intelligence index. This is what sparked that panic from their Chinese rivals. It's rolling out globally, it's got these amazing new image tools. But then, on the other hand, it got caught in this bizarre public argument about what year it is. The pricing is making some people's eyes water, and its own safety policies seem kind of confusing. You gotta hear this story. It was just too good. A famous AI researcher, Andrej Karpathy, was just playing around with Gemini, and the model flat out refused to believe it was 2025. It just kept insisting the year was 2024. It even accused him of showing it fake headlines, calling them AI-generated fakes. So what was the problem? Well, its training data stopped in 2024, and its connection to Google Search wasn't turned on. The second they flipped that switch, the model's reaction was, and I quote, "Oh my God," admitting it was having a massive case of temporal shock. We all had a good laugh, right? But the lesson here is actually really serious. It proves that a model's raw IQ is way less important than its access to real-time tools and data. It also just reinforces how big of an advantage companies like Google and Microsoft have in this global AI race because of their massive scale. And maybe most importantly, it's a powerful reminder that these systems, they're still just assistants. They are not all-knowing gods, and they absolutely need a human in the loop.
So while all the consumer-facing AIs are having these little identity crises, a whole new kind of AI is quietly starting its first day on the job in the corporate world: autonomous agents. And these aren't just chatbots. These are AI systems designed to carry out complex tasks all by themselves, which brings incredible new efficiencies and a terrifying new kind of threat. So Anthropic, yeah, the same company from our first story, they dropped an absolute bombshell of a report. They believe they've identified the first ever cyber espionage campaign that was orchestrated almost entirely by an AI agent. A state-sponsored group used an AI to autonomously carry out pretty much the whole attack. The humans, they were just there to give the high-level goals and sign off at the end. And we're not talking about a simple break-in here. The AI agent ran the entire cyber attack playbook, all on its own. It started with reconnaissance, scouting the target for weak spots. Then it exploited a vulnerability to get in. It harvested credentials to look like a real user. It moved sideways through the network to find the good stuff. And finally, it exfiltrated the data. The barrier to entry for launching a sophisticated global cyber attack just dropped to basically zero. The industry is, as you can imagine, racing to respond. Microsoft just announced a whole suite of tools designed to govern these new AI workers. Think of Agent 365 as a central HR department for AIs. A single registry to manage and track every single one. That's paired with a security dashboard so you can see what they're all doing, and a defensive tool called predictive shielding to fight back against these new AI threats in real time. So the key takeaway is this. Companies are rushing to use AI agents to automate everything, but the conversation is shifting really fast. The winners in this new era won't be the companies that deploy the most agents. It'll be the ones who can prove they have them under control. For any company in a regulated industry, having a full, auditable record of every single thing an agent does is about to become totally non-negotiable. Okay, let's get to our final theme for the day. And trust me, it's a big one. This is the point where the abstract world of AI software, with all its exponential growth and fancy code, slams head-on into the hard, unforgiving limits of the physical world. We're talking power, we're talking materials, and we're talking cold, hard cash. First up, let's look at the demand side, and you can pretty much sum it up in one name: Nvidia. The undisputed king of AI hardware didn't just beat its earnings expectations, it absolutely demolished them. And then they told the market the next quarter was going to be even bigger. This isn't hype anymore, folks. This is proof of real, massive, and accelerating demand for the chips that power this entire revolution. But that insane demand comes with a staggering physical cost. A recent report from JPMorgan estimates that by 2030, AI could be responsible for an extra 662 terawatt-hours of electricity use in the US alone. That is an almost unimaginable amount of new demand to put on the grid. And the bottlenecks are literally everywhere you look. Right now, there is basically no empty data center space left in the country. The most advanced chips, they're sold out for the next year and a half. Companies are projected to borrow up to $1.5 trillion just to pay for all this stuff. And even if you could build all the data centers and get all the chips, the waiting list to simply connect new power to the grid is over 5 years long. So this brings us to these two conflicting truths of where we are right now with AI. First, the demand, just look at Nvidia's numbers, is undeniably real and it's growing like crazy. But second, the physical runway, the power, the data centers, the capital, is finite. Both of these things are 100% true at the exact same time, and they are on a collision course. So as we wrap up this absolute whirlwind of a day, we're left with this one big question. The digital intelligence of AI is getting smarter at a pace we have never seen before. But every single line of that code has to run on physical hardware, in a physical building, powered by a physical grid, and paid for with very real money. The biggest challenge for AI in the next few years might not be making the AI smarter. It might be figuring out how our physical world can possibly keep up. Thanks for joining us.